next issue campaign funding. Now, this one's kind of short and sweet. I am going to pop up an image here on the screen for everyone to see. Boom. There it is. Boom. Yeah. Okay. So we have Mayor Pierce. Now, Mayor Pierce on the Idaho Sunshine Report, there's a screenshot off that website, did raise $73,000, $73,869, has spent $43,460. The big distinction in funding, well, there's that. And then, of course, Councilman Pike has only raised $32,504, and he spent $23,350. So, big difference here with funding, right? Like Mayor Pierce is obviously far better at fundraising than Councilman Pike. Okay.
Yep.
But the big distinction that Councilman Pike touts is that he has elected to not take funding from developers or, contractors, things of that nature, whereas Mayor Pierce does, and he feels that those people are, individuals in the community and deserve representation from a donation standpoint as well.
Yeah, that's really the big distinction. And we saw, the home builder lobby has been really active in municipal elections for the last, multiple cycles now. The Building Contractors Association, some of these major home builders, even the PAC that was backing Pierce, the Building Industry Group of the Treasure Valley, and then now the Preserve Idaho PAC. Right. And so those groups, they're active. They give a lot of money because they have a vested interest in how municipal elections go, because they control zoning, they control development. And so this is just another sort of election that follows in that same theme of home builders who particularly build in more rural parts of Ada County getting very active in these elections.
Now, the PAC donations, like if I'm a PAC and I donate directly to, say, Councilman Pike, yep, then that gets reported here, right? But if I'm a PAC, I can go out and do a mailer or a text message chain as long as I indicate this was Matt's PAC that paid for this. Is that correct?
Yes. So the way PACs work is that they are not supposed to coordinate with candidates.
Right. And I wouldn't ask, Councilman Pike or Mayor Pierce. It's just I'm going to do this. I'm not even, they can't ask, they can't coordinate, they can't do anything. But if I was I'm going to send out this mailer, as long as I put paid for by, Matt Todd's PAC, then I get to do that.
Yeah, totally. And that's what we've seen in this race. So you often see two different kinds of messages. You see the candidates, they're going to have their message, their campaign, they're saying what they're going to say. And then there's this other level where the PACs are putting out their own campaign, their own messaging that might be different in tone, that might be that might be look completely different, right, than a candidate. In this case, during the race, Pierce was heavily backed up by Building Industry Group of Treasure Valley. They spent $13K in the last week for him. If I just looked at that.
Okay, what industry or what? Somebody just spent $13,000 in the last week in support of Pierce.
In the last week of the general election, yeah. The Building Industry Group of Treasure Valley, it's a PAC. It was set up by home builders like Trade Winds General Contracting. I think they were running that PAC and taking in donations. They got donations from builders. They got donations from firefighters because that was when they were active supporting Mike Masterson for mayor. They also got a lot of support from Harry Bettis, who is a big rancher up in Emmett, and they were running ads supporting Pierce. And then now they have changed, and now they've given their money to a new PAC, Preserve Idaho PAC, that is running more ads in support of Pierce. And that same sort of network goes back to 3 years ago, when they were supporting candidates that were they were running ads against candidates who didn't want Avamore. And so it all it's that nexus of home builders that have, certain interests. And so they were running these PAC ads. Then on the other hand, we've got Brad Pike. He's been attacked for having PAC support from this new PAC called Protect Eagle. And who's funding that PAC? The Conservation Voters for Idaho, which is a bipartisan group. They have heavily backed Lauren McLean, and they're linked to conservation groups. They have gotten money from DC. And then that PAC has also taken in donations from the Eagle Firefighter PAC. and then another developer, Tommy Alquist, who is kind of on the opposite end. He's a more urban developer, right? And so he's backing a different set of candidates than the home builder, group. And so it's like these two like sides like struggling for power in these PAC races, and then the candidates, they don't have any say.
Yeah, they can't do anything. What I find really interesting is the mailers that are going out, because I keep getting pictures of these mailers going out.
Right.
And even in the city council meeting recently, there was a comment near the end from Mark Butler, who used to be on the Eagle City Council. He actually came in and did an interview recently. He brought me that beautiful picture. Really cool guy. And he got up and he's like, Brad, like, I don't understand the things you've been doing. This is what he was saying. He's like, I don't understand the things you've been doing. Like, you've been doing like I got this, I can't remember if it was an email or a mail or a text message or something. And he was really taken back by it. He's like, this doesn't seem like you. And Brad's like, yeah, because it wasn't me. It's a PAC. And the PAC, the manipulation of PACs seems really interesting to me, because you could turn off voters for Brad by being super positive for Brad, right? For instance, there was one mailer that went out recently. There was like, saying how Brad is running for all of these great things like increased bike lanes and increased, buses, and wants more equity in the community. And like, it's spun as this positive thing. It was all fake. It was paid for by a PAC, and it appeared to be something supporting him. And then Brad takes the fall for it, because they essentially frame him for wanting these things that people just really are not talking. Like, nobody's sitting around here. I haven't heard anybody sitting around here talking about like bike lanes and like more equity in the Eagle community. And I don't know, for people that aren't from California, if you mention equity to a Californian, like, I guarantee the hairs on the back of their neck, like, oh my God. Like, they have equity liaisons at school, which are essentially like, we need a quality of outcome. Like, how are we going to get a quality of outcome? And that's how they create equity liaisons. They don't want a quality of opportunity. They want literally everybody from every demographic, like, finishing at the same line. And it's, that's a different thing. But the point is, it's interesting to me how people are using these things to either be really vicious and like vicious on, say, in this case with Mr. Butler, vicious on Brad's behalf. And Brad's like, that's not me. I'm not doing this stuff. So if you happen to be a voter who's very turned off by this vicious messaging, you'd be like, oh, Mr. Pike, like, this is inappropriate. Or you're somebody who is turned off by like this positive bleeding heart messaging of like, we need equity in Eagle. You're like, oh, no. I'm all about meritocracy. Give everybody a shot. There's going to be no equity in that ever, because we all have members of our family that either work harder or not as hard, and that's within the same family. Like, we're not ever going to have equity throughout a community like that. So anyway, it's very interesting how that's like, you get it both ways without messaging. It's really goofy, and it's very hard, I think, for people to really unpack it.
Well, and
do you see what I did there? Unpack it. Thank you.
That was good. That was
you.
good.
I try.
No, yeah, I mean, well, PACs are interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up, because so the building industry group of the Treasure Valley, they also used to go by the name Conservative Citizens for Thoughtful Growth. They have been well known and notorious for making these pretty negative attack ads. And I'm saying they're negative not because I personally don't like them, but because of the language they're using. Associating, I think, like, it coined former Democratic Ada County Commissioner Diana Lacciando, Lockdown Lacciando, because she supported COVID-19 restrictions. Criticizing, calling Lauren McLean, saying, oh, she's affordable housing everywhere, turning it into Portland, attracting addicts, and all of this like kind of negative language. And, some people looked at that language and said, heck yeah, I like this. I don't like Lauren McLean. I like this message. A lot of other people were in the comments over the multiple municipal cycles going, are you doing attack ads? Well, I don't like that.
Right.
And actually, we had this happen where that group, Building Industry Group of Treasure Valley, they go by Big TV, but that's such a weird name, in my opinion. They ran an ad that was anti-LGBTQ messaging and was really, really negative on that, with Lauren McLean and associating her with negative things about that. And Mike Masterson came out and disavowed the ad. And he said, this is not me. Don't want to be the anti-gay guy. Like, this is not the campaign I want to run. And they took down the PAC. The PAC took down the ad, because it was such strong messaging. And he said, this is not, I don't want to be associated with this.
Right.
And so that plays out too, where sometimes these ads, you're right, they can be counterintuitive or they can be confusing. Lauren McLean got hit because there was a PAC heavily supported by conservation voters for Idaho called Boise Fact Check that was running all of these ads that was kind of like, they were kind of trying to do like quasi-journalism fact checking, and some of the claims were misleading. We did a lot of reporting on it over at BoiseDev. People were looking at those ads going, what the heck is this? I'm not a fan. Other people liked them, and so those PACs can affect the outcome of the race, but in a way that's out of reach from the candidate. Right.
Out of reach. And that's the big thing. So you're guilty by association, even though you have no control over it. There's a lot of political action in the town I came from. It's very similar to Eagle, upper end income, more expensive houses, nice area, very good schools, called Danville. And in 22, they had people going around like randomly. Nobody knew who did it, but they were sandwich bags, like snack bags with a black and white leaflet in it with like a little rock. They just throw them in your driveway, right? So people were like driving around randomly throwing these. And it was all about the Jewish agenda that Biden had, and like join the conservatives to like stop the Jewish agenda. And people were aghast because like Danville's very reasonable. They're not anti-Semitic at all, right? And the political play, I actually spoke with one of the city councilmen about this. And he said, this is actually something that's happening in a lot of places all over California. They're going to places with money and influence and aligning conservatism with like anti-Semitism, LGBTQ, like all these crazy, like it's so black and white. It's like, oh, this is literally meant to just disgust you. And what very unfortunately happened in Danville is that people just immediately started associating conservatism with anti-Semitism because they got these mailers. So it's like, guys, these are crazy people. Like, there's a reason that this was thrown in your driveway in the dead of night and it has no like actual place to like go talk to someone. Like, there's no accountability. It's not something that people are proud of. They're like, no, this is how I really feel. Like, come change my mind at like a little table or something. These are cowardly political actors that are just throwing this stuff, trying to get you upset. And it's weird. Anyway.
Politics is weird.
God bless you. That's
send tweet.
Send tweet. God bless it. Okay, let's move on. So